Hey guys, welcome back to Black Clover Mobile. In today's video, I want to go through my reroll priorities. I'm going to go through just a bunch of SSR units and SR units that are going to be very valuable and I think worth rerolling for. And then I'm going to go through my exact strategy of what I'm going to reroll for. And I'll leave timestamps in the description so you guys can bounce around to different characters. And then if you want to just go to my personal strategy at the end, you can do that as well. And just quickly, because I know people are going to ask about a reroll guide specifically on how to reroll. The thing is, the Canadian version is different from the KR and JP versions, and we don't know how global is exactly going to work, but I might make a video before the launch just because I know people want it before the launch actually happens, going through what I believe it will be, and then the situation in which if it's different, that will be easy for you guys to do. So I will do a full reroll guide. It may be before the launch of the game, it may be just like an hour or two after, but I will have a reroll guide out as well. And once again, this is my personal opinion. I'm not saying this is right. This is my opinion. I encourage you guys to go to Discords, look at other content creators, and see what they're doing, because this is once again my personal opinion and what I've decided to do to try and rush my progression in both PvE and PvP as a free-to-play player at the global launch. So for me, the number one priority is Lotus. Lotus basically is a great controlling character, has decent damage as well. He's going to reduce the enemy's turn gauge along with slow them, along with amplify damage that they take, which is just all-round fantastic. He is a blue unit, and blue units are going to be very important in the early game. Probably one of my next videos will be talking about the best beginner team to get to farming LR gear the fastest, and I'll go through a whole video on that, but he is going to be a member of that as well. And he's just all around amazing for PvP and amazing for PvE, and has good longevity. And we do get a multi-roll, which is we get to re-roll like 30 times, or is it 20? I can't remember now. It's been a while since we've done it. But it's one of those ones where you get to choose which one you keep, and then you just keep rolling, and then you get to keep one. If you don't get him, he would be the one I would recommend to get from that. But if you get him in your earlier pools, then you can go for someone else from that. But he is my most important personally. Now, just behind him is going to be Mars. Mars is an absolute beast. Damage mitigation, he has taunts, he has stuns, and he has an amazing passive where he grants all allies immunity to debuffs at the start of battle. So a really fantastic defense unit in PvP. He is a blue unit once again, can be used for farming gear early on. Great for PvE and PvP, but once again, he's just an absolute monster, and you'll find that him as a defensive unit in PvP is really going to help you maintain some ratings. So he is my second priority after Lotus. Moving on from that, I'm going to go into my high value range. The high value range is going to consist of blue Yami, and then basically it's all the season 1 units. So we got Yami, Mimosa, and Asta, and these are all the season 1 units. Now, because these are seasonal units, these have a bit of a higher value for me because they are seasonal. Now, I don't think any of these are on the same tier as Lotus and Mars personally, but I think they're all great pickups. Now, you will get one of these for free through your missions. Now, what I recommend is if you are going to summon on this banner, don't complete the missions and take one straight away, because you might pull them one that you're going to go for, and you'd rather just get multiple of them than get a dupe of one of them. So don't do that until you've finished summoning on that banner. But for these ones, I think Blue Yami is going to be great early on, but I don't like him over the long haul. I think he's going to be great. Like in early game, he is a blue unit, so he's going to be like best damage dealer for early game PvE grinding. But in early game PvE grinding, damage is really the least important thing about it. It's more about your survival. So he's like the least important unit in the team, but he is the best for that slot. He is going to be useful in PvP as well. Honestly, if the meta wasn't blue at the start, then Asta would be great, but he is red, meaning that he is going to be weak against them. But Asta is a beast as we move into different metas, because he does have a really high damaging ultimate and skill, and his ultimate grants him an extra turn, and both of them have damage amplification before the attack. So his ultimate, if he's attacking an enemy above 80%, he gets another turn, but before he attacks, he gets a damage boost for himself, and then his skill is going to give him an attack boost before he attacks. So he can really just like control a PvP match from the very start if he just claps one unit really hard, or if he claps two, depending on the situation. Now, Mimosa, I really like Mimosa. She's a healer, she's a green unit, and she has healing, she has heaps of damage mitigation, she has a resurrection. She's just an all-round great sustaining unit. However, when I look to farming early on, normally you're going to be wanting to farm the gear dungeon that is the red enemies, so you're going to want the blue team, and she kind of gets clapped in that early on when you don't have great gear, so she won't be a substitute healer for a blue team, but she is just an all-round great sustain unit, has the resurrection, has a bunch of mitigation, just an all-round fantastic unit in my opinion. And once again, these three are all seasonal units, so I think they're all great pickups. And once again, it's more important to get, in my opinion, to get multiples of these than to only get one of them and then get summon a dupe of it. Now, for me personally, I know some people love Blue Yami and would rate him the highest. He's honestly the lowest for me. For me, it's between Mimosa and Asta, and I honestly don't know which one I'll go for myself personally if I don't pull either one of them. If I pull one of these two, I will take the other one from my my missions, but if I don't pull either of these two, I'm just going to toss a coin basically and see where the rest of my account's at on which one I go ahead and pick up. Now, the next thing I wanted to go into is the great bonus. So these two units I like similar to the levels of these three units, but because they're not limited, they have a lower priority for me. The first one's going to be Vengeance. Vengeance is great. Basic attack can turn into a tree, meaning they don't get to do anything. He has damage mitigation, he has damage amplification. He also grants the ally with the highest attack a counter attack ability, which can be absolutely monstrous on certain characters. So he's just an all-round crazy unit in my opinion. But once again, he's good. He is another blue unit, but not usable in early game farming teams, in my opinion. And so I don't rate him as highly as Lotus and Mars. And I rate him below the others because those are seasonal units, which are obviously more scarce, and he's going to be around forever, and you'll eventually probably get him. The other one I'm going to look at is Rades. Now, Rades is really a really cool unit that I think is really solid in the early PvP meta once you get to farming some LR gear and you get his stats up there. He has great damage mitigation. He also has an immunity buff for his team, which is really fantastic on especially arena defense teams, and he can be really disruptive in that sense. So he is another good one. I'd probably rate him the lowest out of all of these SSR units that I put here. I'd rate him just below Vengeance in these three, but I still think he's a fantastic unit, but he's a bit more niche and isn't going to be as splashably good for everyone, but I still think he is an absolutely fantastic unit, and if I pick him up, I will be incredibly excited. So then we go on to the SR units for PvE. First is Yami. She's a blue healer. She is just basically, she's almost like required. I really wish the game would give you a selector for this, but if you want to farm the red dungeon, you kind of need a Yami. She's like the main spot. So if you do see her as one of your SRs, she is a very, very good pickup. And the other one is going to be Sol, who is a blue tank, which if you don't have Mars, she's going to be your next best option, which is going to be very important for farming gear early on as well. Now, the other two we're going to look at for PvP are going to be Finral and Veltros. Veltros? Dude, I can't remember the guy's name. But these two are both turn gauge boosters. Now, they're both also the high base speed. So Veltros is the more reliable one, but I like Finral more for like defense and stuff because he's got more RNG and he's got more to his kit, whereas Veltros has a guaranteed boost, whereas Finral's isn't a guaranteed boost. It's like a 60-80% chance. I can't remember exactly, but sometimes he messes up your turn order and it doesn't work on offense. So I kind of like him more on offense and him more on defense, but these are both just good SR units to keep in mind. If you see them, that will be useful in PvP, but once again, in the early game, PvE is the most important thing. Now, there's one other unit that I wanted to talk about, and that is going to be the red Yami, because we do have a banner for him as well. I really like him in this early game phase. He's great. We all get a free Charlotte. He's a red unit. He's a great like farming type unit for PvE. He's also decent in PvP. However, we do have the problem that we got the blue meta, so he's just weak against that. So he doesn't really excel in early game PvP either, but he's a great PvE unit. However, I wouldn't recommend pulling on his banner over something like the seasonal units. Personally, that is just my personal take. But once again, he is good. He just kind of gets outclassed and pushed down a little bit in my opinion. Now I wanted to jump into my personal plan on my rerolls, keeping in mind I am free to play, and what my goal is to get the characters that I want to be able to progress in PvE and have some sort of strength in PvP whilst using as few summons as possible. So that is my goal. Depending on whether you're going to do more summons, it may change your perspective on things, but essentially what I want my account to have in hopefully around 30 to 40 summons is to have a Mars, a Lotus, and a Yami. Those are my main targets. Once again, if you're summoning more, the Yami probably becomes less of a priority because she's an SR. She's easier to get, but she's a core part of my PvE farming that I want to be able to rush progression with. And for me, essentially what I'm gonna do is I will start by rerolling on this banner, so that if I have, and trying to get one of these two as an off banner from this banner, in the hope that maybe I pick up one of these as well with like a god roll. If that's not working for me, I may do a couple rerolls where I just roll on the standard banner to try and have a better chance at getting one of these two. Now, once I get one of these two, I'll then, once you get about 40 minutes into the game, you unlock probably not even 40, probably 20 to 30-ish, you unlock the multi-roll where you get like the 20 summons, and you can basically choose which one you want out of the lot. Now, you're not guaranteed to get the hero you want, but in general, I'm hoping I can pull one of these two off of this banner. If I get god lucky, I pick one of these guys up as well, and then I pick up the other one from the selector, and hopefully in those summons that I've done up until that point, I can get myself a Yami. That is my end goal. Like I said, I want to have Mars, I want to have Lotus, and I want to have Yami. And I want to do that in as few summons as possible so that I can save as many as I can for future banners and still be able to progress really well in PvE, but also compete decently well in PvP. That is my personal plan. We'll have to see how it goes, but I don't know how many rerolls I'll be doing to try and get that stuff. But like I said, I will start off rerolling on the Season 1 banner, trying to get one of these guys plus one of these guys. But if it's not going too well, I may just shift and roll on the standard banner, trying to get one of these guys and then pick the other one up from the selector. Hopefully get a Yami in there somewhere as well, and away we go. So that is my personal plan. Once again, you don't have to do the same. Mine is very catered towards me and what I'm trying to achieve, which is to rush PvE, also have a decent PvP setup, and save as many summons as possible as a free-to-play player. So that is my play. Once again, you don't have to copy that. And once again, I will have a reroll guide coming out either before the game release or just after the game release, so you guys can know the actual reroll process. But that is my thoughts on the characters. Once again, there are plenty more characters that you can go for. I'm not saying they are horrible. These are just the key ones that I wanted to make note of. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.